Number one thing being, how credible are the founders, and do we believe they can do what they're proposing? If that's the case, the only requirement is the team and the story. And there's other cases where we've seen founders where we weren't sure if they had the domain expertise, or the idea was that great, and later we look and they're doing a really great job. And so they've proven it with numbers. So we've done investments in both. I think it's very hard to kind of say, if you can check off the next 5 things, we will fund you, because I think for every product in every market, it's different.
Well, I think first and foremost, what a startup needs to do is to have a clear vision and a mission of who they are and where they're going. A lot of entrepreneurs think that what you're supposed to do is tell the investor whatever they want to hear, but most investors, what they're really looking for is an entrepreneur that has a passion and vision, that wants to do something dynamic and change the world, often an idea that completely is different than what the investors even heard of before.
Is first of all to create an emotional bond between the team and the potential investor, right? I would like to see that that's fun to work with them, right? That's all. And once this is accomplished in the first meeting, right, this is more than sufficient. The second thing is what I recommend to pitchers is learn that there is a period at the end of a sentence. Start stopping, right? Start not to think what the other person wants to potentially be answered. We all know that you are the expert. You know more than me, granted, right? But don't prove it to me.
We normally get these long dissertations on the market trends or long dissertations on technology trends. And I really want entrepreneurs to focus it down, on these simple things. What are they doing? What's so compelling about it? And why can I believe that what you're saying is true? Part of which requires that you be clear about how you're different than everybody else in the market that's doing, what you're doing.
Startup presentation should, at the very least, talk about the people, how big the market is, how they're going to enter the market, what the business will look like and why they can make good margins, how fast they can grow, how much money it will take, and how they're going to defend themselves. So any company that you look at that gets venture funded up and down Sand Hill Road, pretty much all fill into those characteristics, with the exception of there's some companies like a Snapchat or an Instagram, for example, which really didn't have a strong proposal for business model early on, but they had a very exciting product, or Twitter, for example. But there have been many cases of interesting high engagement consumer products where you can figure out how to monetize them later, or you can sell them along the way or not. But generally, myself and most VCs, they like to hear what's the business going to be, not just what's the product going to be.
The one most important thing is the entrepreneur needs to be able to articulate what they're doing concisely and in a compelling way. If an entrepreneur, I see this all the time, if an entrepreneur can't tell you in 30 seconds what they're doing, why it's important, why anyone cares, they need to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. We have people come in that take 5 minutes to explain, I'm doing this and this and this and this and this, and at the end of 5 minutes you're kind of scratching your head and saying, well, what are they doing? It's the classic elevator pitch. You really can, the best ideas, the best companies you can describe in 30 seconds.
One step that a lot of entrepreneurs fail, you should not expect to convince the VC, the investor, to write a check in your pitch. What you have to convince them is to keep talking to you. So, it's usually short. It has to be enticing, it has to be interesting, and has to convince the investor that you should keep talking to them. So in our case, you should address those 3 areas really well. How the team is composed and why you are great, why the market is really big and a lot of opportunities can emerge from that, and specifically the opportunity that you are tackling right now, why it's special and why you are the right team to tackle it. So if you focus on that, it's for us. I think it's much more effective than trying to convince that your DCF is using the right discount rate or whatever.
It's incredibly important, in my view, to have an extremely open mind, because often the ideas that turn out to be the best seem the most ridiculous at first. And so having an open mind to thinking about what the business opportunity is and what this entrepreneur is trying to solve and who this person is important. So you have to cast a pretty big net so you're not missing something just because it seems impractical. But then you have to rapidly be able to narrow that down into this framework. So there's no way that you can personally analyze 3,000 companies a year. But you should have if there's 300 days that you can see people, you should basically have as many meetings as practically you can, because again, that's really the start of a process. But then we get it down to maybe 150 companies that we do pretty significant analysis of, and then we've been averaging making something of the order of 20 to 25 investments a year.
Simply the most common mistake, I would say, the most common mistake is not being customer focused. So the most common problem we see is a team that comes into our office and they're really excited about their technology. And they've invented this really cool thing that they think if the world sees this, they'll come pounding on their door, right? And so we make the distinction between an inventor and an innovator when we characterize entrepreneurs. And inventors are guys that come up with something cool and they think it's cool, and probably their roommates think it's cool too, but it's not at all clear that most people will think it's cool. They're just not customer centric. Their goal in life is to get their technology into the market. That's their goal. The innovator entrepreneur, on the other hand, sees a problem, an opportunity out there, and figures out a solution and puts together that solution, takes it to the customers, and if the customers don't like it, the innovator says, oh, okay, fine, I'll do something different to make sure that the customers like it. The inventor's attitude, when the inventor goes to a customer and the customer doesn't like it, the inventor's typical attitude is, well, they don't get it, right?